It's finally time to say the unpopular. I think new launch condo prices are really too hyped up. Now, if you are an existing homeowner also and your home price doesn't reflect what we see in news headlines of new launch PSF, then maybe you'll be glad that I'm calling this out. There's really nowadays too many adverts on new launch sales because they're all from real estate agents, correct? Now think about this. If you are selling a property and you can get a commission check of $50,000, would you be saying all the hype stuff? Possibly yes also, right? It's human nature. And real estate agents, they cannot sell you anything else other than real estate. So it's understandable that they are trying to paint an extreme bias that things will go up all the way to the moon. The incentive to create a herd is very strong. This reminds me of a story of Pied Piper. You know the story that we have more heard before when we are young? Once there was a town of rats and villagers couldn't solve how to get rid of them. Pied Piper appeared out of nowhere and he promised that he can solve the rat problem. And with that, the villagers promised him an incentive also. So Pied Piper, he started playing a very strange tune. And boom, it mesmerized all the rats. One by one, they climbed out of their holes and one by one, they followed him like a herd out of the village, across the mountains, all the way into the river. And the rats all drowned. Thinking about that story, let's ask this very difficult question. Is this new launch condo hype really like a pipe dream to all of us in Singapore that it can make us fast money and low risk money? Take note, all the people making those claims and those advertisements, they won't be responsible if you do not make the money, correct? They get immediately paid a commission when you choose to buy. So what they'll do is they'll paint you a story. So and so bought in 2018, 2019, 2020, and they've made so much money in new launch. They'll show you all the statistics, all the hundreds of thousands of dollars of profits, because that's mesmerizing. Not just the profit number, but also how easy, how high a success rate it can be. They wouldn't really mention that if you own a resale during this 2018, 2019, 2020 phase, you probably also made money because the property cycle was just on an uptrend for the next few years after that. My own 40-year-old 3-room HDB flat actually appreciated 30% in the last few years itself. So when the tide rises, everything goes up, correct? But selling a resale is very different from selling something in the showroom. Firstly, selling resale takes a lot of work of convincing. But more important, selling a new launch, the commission is even higher. It is known that some developers pay 2, 3, 4, 5 and upwards in terms of their commission rates. So what I mentioned about 50,000 a check, sometimes maybe just an understatement. Nobody tells you that when you buy a new launch, you could end up losing money. Most of the failure stories are swept under the carpet. Some of the property adverts are even flipping the narrative that because you don't know my special secret method of identifying properties, that's why you have lost money in a new launch, etc. and etc. That's why today I'm trying to provide an alternative balancing point of view, because the scale is really tipping towards the FOMO get rich quick in new launches idea. I was inspired to do this sharing because I saw the recent news of Norwood Grand in Woodlands. And the headline reads, CDL's Norwood Grand sells 84% of units at 2,067 PSF at launch. I thought this 84% is skewed, but no, actually it's really the majority of units. So congrats to CDL, congrats to the agents. But really, I'm not too sure for buyers if it's really the right money-making move. Or for buyers, whether the risk-reward is that favorable or not. An average of 2,065 PSF, that means somebody has paid 2001, 2002, correct? And indeed, when I dig for records, I think somebody bought at 2,200 plus per square foot. Wow, to me that is a bit out of scale. I'm sorry if you have placed a check there recently. This wouldn't sound music to your ears. Don't take it personal. And also, I didn't say that if you buy right now, you're sure to lose money. I didn't say that. It is just my opinion that the risk-reward ratio, buying right now at this price, 2,000 plus PSF at Woodlands, is just terrible from a risk-reward ratio. Let's look onto the article. Norwood Grand is the best-selling project since 2023 Jayden. Most units priced 2 million and below are a sweet spot for buyers. 2 million now becomes sweet spot. It's like we have gotten so inflated in expectation already. The prices for the units are competitive and hard to beat. Really? Later, let me show you some resale prices to justify why it's super inflated. Market watchers point that this is the first private residence in Woodlands since 2012. The strong take-up rate could be due to pent-up demand, with buyers waiting 12 years for a new private residential project in that area. Really? Singapore is so small, you know. I live in Tiong Bahru area. If there's no project here and I really want to stay in this area, I'll simply look for Queenstown, I'll simply look for Harbourfront. I may even extend my research all the way to Clementi. Why in the world would I wait for 12 years if I do want a new launch in Tiong Bahru area? I don't think that makes sense, correct? I've seen so many private clients move far away from their first home. So to me, I think that's unjustifiable. Another comment, the sweet spot pricing is up to 2.5 million. Wow, so sweet. There is no other government land sales that are sold or available in Woodlands area. After this project, there may not be any new private residential project for some time. Wow, miss this and there's no more. FOMO, FOMO, FOMO. Why are we always selling FOMO? When I create content on this channel, do I say if you don't buy capital land today, you'll never see this price? All in, confirm make money. Wrong, right? We never know where the future is. That's the truth. But never mind about that. Let's look at actual numbers. I've put up over here Norwood Grand versus its neighboring condo units. Closest, Park Rosewood in 2014, and slightly further, Woodhaven, completed in 2015. These two are slightly younger in age. That's why I would like to box them up in red to show you what is available on the resale market. Average PSF price is 1,321 only. Woodhaven, 1,256. Maybe they are not that near the MRT as compared to Norwood, but is it really justifiable that there's a 50% premium over these two units? 50% premium, or in fact slightly more if you're a Woodhaven person at 1,256, looking at 2,000 plus PSF. You need an $800 PSF gain. Or maybe you can say that you are at such a discount. The other logic is that the premium for Norwood is justifiable because it's a new lease and there is lease decay, correct? So let's pull out the Bala curve. What do we realize from the Bala curve? On the left, there's a chart, and on the right, there's a per year scale in terms of comparison of it against a freehold value. Again, this in theory, because what market pays may not follow this. But what I want to highlight, that in the first 10 or 15 years, the Bala curve or lease decay factor doesn't come in that much, correct? At most 10% difference. But now we're talking 50% difference. Have buyers gotten too drunk on FOMO to realize that that price could be really inflated? I also understand that when you buy a new launch, you are putting little or no down payment. It's a progressive payment method, which means if you buy resale, you have to put your capital down and you have to take up the loan straight away. But you buy a new launch, you can pay the premium and then hope that you can flip it after 3 years. If that is true, then are we speculating because we are trying to time this 3-year window and exit? If it is, we have to touch our conscience and ask, are we an investor or are we a speculator? That is why I can't quite understand when government reviews the seller stamp duty SSD. Why are we cutting that? Or why are we not counting SSD from TOP, like how we count in terms of MOP? Because quite clearly, a lot of buyers don't care the entry price because they are so seduced, so drunk by the idea that they can exit in 3 years simply by looking at track record presented from other new launches in the last few years. Maybe to this point, let me clarify again. This is not a direct critique on Norwood. This is a direct critique of buying new launch prices which could be inflated. So that's why I'll pivot to use another example. Tembusu Grand. This is one new launch, also very hyped up in the east area. The average PSF transacted is 2,481, where the max has even gone up to 2,725. Yes, it is new. Yes, it looks very good on the brochure. Yes, it ticks a lot of other check boxes. But when we compare Tembusu Grand against some of its neighboring units, you would realize that it is also at a 30 to 50% premium. And there's a further kicker. Everything that is in this summary table are freehold units. You've heard it correct. Freehold units bring 30 to 50% cheaper against Tembusu Grand. Are we so sure that this is a great entry price? Fast forward 20 years later, the freehold unit has to be better valued than Tembusu Grand, correct? Because of lease decay, correct? We have to use a consistent approach to thinking, what? Does that mean that they converge and eventually Tembusu Grand has to stagnate and drop below them? I cannot explain how this premium is going to be close and as well as exceeded if we project 20 years forward. Never mind, some buyers again are hoping to exit within 3 years, and 20 years later is not their problem as they hope so. I have further information. Let's deep dive on Haig 162, which is the best performing freehold of all of them. Are there learning lessons? This is the transaction price pattern for Haig 162. Again, it's a resale freehold condo unit completed in 2013. What I would like to highlight again is this green arrow that since 2017, it also saw a 30% gain. But if we look to the left hand side of the chart, you realize I've boxed up something. I've especially boxed up things that look above the average curve line. And I'd like to point you right to the very left hand side that some people in 2011 have actually bought Haig 162 at 1,600 plus PSF. Very likely that was a new launch price. And for these people, they've only finally saw daylight after 13 years of holding. We don't know how many have exited at a loss, especially for those who have bought at new launch. In fact, everybody in the red box over there can be defined as someone who has overpaid for that property itself. And we contrast that to those in the green box in the middle, you would realize that some people have transacted at 1,002 PSF just a few years ago. Again, just a few years ago, there are undervalued transactions. They didn't buy from new launch and they have probably seen very strong appreciation because the entry price was that low. Let me know in the comment sections whether you agree with my findings today or not. If you do, smash the like button. Hopefully we can reach more audiences together to show them data and to show them a conflicting argument before they go throwing empty checks and thinking they're going to make monies very soon, because clearly that's not a guarantee. For me, I've always built my wealth looking at undervalued assets. I will buy properties also in future when it's a much cooler period. I'm trying to warn against FOMO and hopefully this message goes correctly. Speaking of here, if you'd like to join our upcoming Josh Tan meet, look for links below. On 3rd of November 2024 Sunday, I've booked the entire restaurant to do up this event for us. Key highlights for this event is you'll get to find out where to invest for 2025, where to move your money towards and how to build returns. We are now entering a phase where the Fed is likely going to cut rates. So if you're going to keep monies in bank accounts, you're not going to see returns. If you're going to move monies to properties, as I've suggested, maybe it's not the best time. That also means that you have to find the right investments to deploy, and that's what I'll cover in this event. I will be preparing a buffet for everybody, and not just that, you also receive free chapters of my ebook 28 Days to Financial Freedom when you make the ticket purchase. Tickets are going fast, look for links below to sign up right away. Back to the point today on condo new launch getting hyped up, let's round up our discussion. Someone buying at Tembusu Grand today at Katong at 2,007 PSF must be hoping to exit at 3,000 in a couple of years. What are the chances? Someone buying in Woodlands at 2,200 must be hoping to exit at 2,500 to make a bit of money. Is that going to happen? I really don't know if there's always a greater fool to buy at newer record prices, especially if our time frame is just 3 years. There is a point whereby new launch prices will be deemed too crazy. And let me pull up something by Property Brothers. This is a chart to show the difference between new launch PSF and resale PSF. You would realize that the gap started to balloon up from 2020, correct? Resale went down, but new launch went up, and it went up and up some more. The gap became so big in 2022, which stood at 65%. You compare that to 2015, 2016, you would realize it's quite crazy. Question now is, even if property prices are going up, will new launch condos start to not be accepted by investors and they are going to look for better value in resale market? Take note again, back in 2015, 2018, the difference was only 15-20% thereabouts. I have further points to raise. Let's look at our residency status chart recently published. You probably seen the headlines, Singapore has now 6 million people on this island. Bottom bar is citizens, green bar is PRs, and top bar is non-residents. If we were to scrutinize on citizens, what do we realize? A growth of only 1%, correct? Will there be so many greater fools to buy at record prices all the time? Our population for PRs have not moved. The only growth is non-residents who face a 60% ABSD. So if we understand the macro, at some point the demand would start to wane, correct? All in all, I'm doing this sharing because I think there's too much optimism and too much hype. I'm not a perma-bear on property prices. I will buy a second property in due time. I even paid ABSD when I bought this back in 2017. That was 7% ABSD, by the way. So again, I'm not a perma-bear. What I'm doing is to warn everybody. Share this video with someone who should understand if we all follow the pipe and move as a herd, there is every risk that we will walk into the river blindly. We surely don't want that to happen.